Good afternoon. I'm Ed. I'm out in my shop today, and I've built a container for my dust devil, a barrel for my dust devil. Let me put this on hold. All right, so I was using this 5-gallon pail. The problem with this thing, two big problems, well, three. One, it's awfully small, it fills up too fast. Two, if you pull on the hose at all, it tips over, so you got to anchor it down somewhere. Three, the lid is a real fingernail buster to get off of there. So I tried it right at first. The top is too flexible. Everything about it is just, as far as I'm concerned, it's just wrong. So I was going to buy one of those fiber barrels from eBay. Not eBay, Amazon. And they were as cheap as anybody on it. But it was $35 plus shipping. I imagine it would have been $45 before I would have gotten it. I checked Lowe's and Home Depot, my local place, Jerry's, the True Value. Nobody had a barrel with a stiff lid on it. And I like that fiber barrel because it's got that lid that snaps on there. And it's steel, well, metal at least, steel, I guess, and it's done. So what I did was I made this. It's 8-sided, which makes it very easy to manufacture in a small shop. On this one, I used 6 1/4-inch bolts with washers on both sides. And for the life of me, I'm thinking to myself, I got this piece of plastic bolted to a piece of plastic, like I'm sending this thing into outer space, like this thing's going to be under all kinds of pressure. I put thousands of things together with sheetrock screws. This one, I think you can see that. I simply used small washers with sheetrock nails, 1-inch sheetrock screws, and screwed it in there. It ain't going anywhere. People overbuild things. I have no clue why they put those 1/4-inch or 5/16 holes in the bottom of this thing. I would have put 1/8-inch holes for sheetrock screws if I was designing it, but I didn't design the thing. So this is a lid. This is all 22.5-degree stuff. I got these rippers around here to help line the lid up on the container, and I haven't got around to it yet because I just finished building this, but I'm going to run some 1/4-inch foam all the way around the perimeter here to get a little better seal on the container. And here is the container. I just used the scraps I had sitting in my driveway, or in my shop here. I had some 3/8 plywood left over from something I broke down that somebody left in a rental. Some 3/8 plywood. I cut it all 22.5-degree stuff for 8 sides. Cut them all 20 inches long, 7.5 inches wide. And then I glued them up. You have to tape it really good. All the way. You have to have continuous tape, otherwise those joints won't stay together. So you get it all glued up and taped. And don't worry about it feeling a little floppy when you first start. Just keep going at it. Just working your way around with pieces of tape until and then once you start getting continuous pieces, it'll start firming up. You'll get it done before the glue dries. Then after the glue is fairly well set where the thing's not going to move around. Oh, the next thing is across the top here. Across the top, take a tape measure and measure here, measure there. And if it's right on the money, just leave it. If it's not, stretch some masking tape, hang it down about 6 inches over here, and hang it down about 6 inches on this side. Tape it, and pull the wide side in just a little bit, and clamp the tape down. If you got another wide side, and just fiddle with it till you get it close to even. And that'll be close enough because you're going to flip it over after the glue set. You're going to flip it over and scribe the lid. You're not going to try and figure that out and lay it all out. You're just going to scribe the outside of the lid, and then put marks on the lid. in a little bit further. You can see my black line there, in a little bit further than the scribe of the lid. Plus the thickness of the wall, of course. You see the black line, that represents the thickness of the plywood in the box itself. And you move it in, I don't know, 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, something like that, just so you make sure, because you're not building a piano here, just so you make sure that the lid will actually go on the box when you're done. You're going to put foam on it anyway, so it doesn't have to be all that accurate. And I found the 3/8 plywood plenty stiff. 3/8 plywood had enough stiffness to it to make the box. When I'm all done, after this completely sets, I'm going to take this masking tape off here and run a row of Gorilla Tape around the top. That stuff's strong as all get out, and it adheres to it itself really well. So once you get a layer of Gorilla Tape around there, this thing is not going to come apart. The bottom, after the glue's set, get yourself a piece of junk like I did. That's 1/2 inch thick MDF. Set this on top of the scrap. Scribe around the inside of the box. I cut it out on my bandsaw, which is, yeah, right there, you can see it. I cut it out on my bandsaw. And then I marked an X on one side, an X here, and an X on the bottom of the box, so that I would put the thing back in the way I scribed it, because this is not a piano. This is, all these sides are not the same. These are 7.5 inches long point to long point on those 22.5 degrees, 20 inches long. I cut them all out on my radial arm saw, which I really love, in spite of the fact that I had a table saw sitting right there. I used the radial arm saw. I found it to be easier to cut them to length, and you put a stop out here and cut 20 inches, 8 of them, and then you bring the saw around, set it to 22.5 degrees, and run them through with a push stick. Nothing could be easier than that. What else? Oh, then this hole here, I think I made it 3 1/4 inches, and that appears to be about right, 3 1/4. And I cut it out on my scroll saw, which is, may not be able to see it with the backlight, I don't know. Well, I guess you can see it down there, I don't know. And I cut it on my scroll saw. The whole thing took probably, an hour and a half. That's from the time I decided what I was going to do until the time I started working. From the time I started working until the time I was finished. And I was able to do it with all scraps. So essentially, this thing cost me nothing except my time. And there we go. Sits down on there pretty good. One side's going to fit better than the other. You can spin it around if you're fussy and get it where the margins around the outside are all even and crap like that. I frankly don't care. It's going to sit right down there. It's going to collect dust. And now, when I hook it up, it's got a wide base. This thing is 18.5 across the top and the bottom, and overall height is 20.5, give or take. I estimate it to be 18 to 20 gallons. The one I was going to buy off the 15-gallon one I was going to buy was somewhat smaller than this. I think it would easily fit inside. So I think this must be close to 20 gallons. In my shop, I'll probably have to empty it once a month, once every 2 months. As far as the dust deputy, yesterday my grandson and I put that in the camera. Yeah, we put a trough, a V trough, in the bottom of that 55-year-old table saw, and hooked it up to the dust deputy with this old bucket that I had, and no dust came out the back end of it. It collected probably, with that 2-inch hose, collected about probably 90% of the sawdust that put out. A little bit came out through this hole in the front where you got your angle adjustment, a little bit on top of the table naturally, but it collected most of it. I was slinging sawdust all over my garage with my radial arm saw, and I put this box on that. I don't know if you can see it from there. No, you can't. Let me move this around. And yeah, I built this box up there behind the box, behind the radial arm saw. It's not very big. I had to add a top piece because it was throwing sawdust clear over the top of it still. And I made this hole here a little bit too big. If my hand's not in the way. This thing's kind of hard to move around with the what's caught on it. So I made this hole here a little bit too big, so I put Gorilla Tape around it. The thing plugs in back here. That's cut at a 45-degree angle back there. And it's got the thingamajigger, the outlet for the vacuum, 2-inch vacuum, which I had to scavenge together and cut some pieces up to make that work. And then I put gray tape on it. That Gorilla Tape is not holding the wood as well as I'd like, so I'll probably have to put some sheet metal on it or something. Some thin strips of sheet metal and some metal screws, sheet metal screws. But that collects probably about 90%, 95% of the crap that comes off that radial arm saw. One of the worst offenders is for dust is bandsaw. That there again, it doesn't collect at all, but it collects probably, I don't know, 80%, 90%. And this is the sweet one over here. This one creates nothing but, talcum powder for dust. The biggest offender and creates the most dust around here is the scroll saw. Well, I didn't hook that into the dust deputy. Because I use it, but it doesn't create mounds of stuff. So I just have a dedicated vacuum cleaner underneath it that I flip on, and it's connected to some stuff I manufactured, put together up underneath there with there again glue and 1/8-inch plywood. 1/4-inch plywood and whatever I had, and glued it all together and stuck a pipe in it, and there's a picture of the pipe running along there somehow. I've got too much stuff in the way here. I'm sorry for all this movement. There's that pipe. That's just the pipe that came with that 5-gallon shop vac, and so I've sacrificed that 5-gallon shop vac to the Delta. I think I picked that up at the garage sale for $5. I put a new filter bag in it and a new filter, or I cleaned the filter and the pleated filter and put a new bag in it, and that collects. I used to get tons and tons of fine dust out of this thing up underneath here. And up underneath it, and I don't get that anymore. This area right in here was just covered, and the stuff was so fine it was floating all over the house and making a tremendous mess. I can see that this video is probably not going to be my proudest moment for trying to move the camera around on the tripod. But I just want to do a quick video and let everybody know that the dust deputy works good. I bought a new rigid vacuum cleaner that is a fantastic addition to my shop. Let me see if I can get that in the frame. That is right there. It's the rigid 14-gallon 6 horsepower, and it is comparatively, it's got way more suction than the little 5-gallon one I had over there. It's it's and surprisingly, even though it is twice the amperage, it is a lot quieter than the little shop vac was. So it's quiet, as you can hear. That's not too bad. It's not too bad at all. So it, it's just something a guy has to get used to, is running that vacuum cleaner at the same time you're running your tools. Otherwise, you're just going to cream your shop all the time. You're going to carry the stuff that's going to follow you into the house and dust up your house and not make people happy. Yeah, I recommend this. I recommend this Dust Deputy. Highly recommend this thing. It's a little bit of futzing around to get it hooked up, but I'm still not finished. I'm going to run some pipes along, one pipe along this wall with outlets out of it. One for the 2-inch hose to vacuum things up and hook to my table saw, my bandsaw, and then I'm going to have an outlet behind here to hook into the radial arm. Another outlet over there for the bandsaw, line for the table saw. I'll use that same line to use a 2-inch hose to vacuum the floor. And then I'll use the 1.25-inch line, and I run it over to my work table where I do my sanding, and I hook it into my Makita half sheet sander and my Bosch random orbital sander. And those were big offenders too. I mean, the dust that came off of there was like talcum powder, and it floated everywhere. And that system collects, 96% of that dust goes into this Dust Deputy container. So I got about another $30 or $40. I priced out the pieces. I got about another $30, $40, another hour and a half's worth of work to get my shop completely set up with the Dust Deputy. And I sure thank you for watching. Bye.